Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar from Coffee Lover to Culinary Recruiter. Welcome, Liam. This is Liam Drury. The name of our webinar today, I think, sort of tells a really good story, and that's why we're here to talk about Liam's story. I'm Samina, and I'm excited to host this along today with Aman.
Thanks, Samina. We're really excited to have Liam with us today. Liam is a recruitment advisor of food and beverages with Sky City Entertainment Group. Liam has a fascinating story from managing cafes to now recruiting the topmost culinary talents from around the world for his clients. It's such a pleasure to have Liam over with us.
Thanks, Aman. Yeah, Liam's journey really is filled with valuable lessons for hospitality professionals and recruiters. And just to let you all know, we will have some time for some question and answers at the end of the webinar, so do pop those in the chat, but we'll begin and start to hear a little bit more about Liam's professional journey.
Liam, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a great honor and privilege to be here, and I look forward to having a little chat over the next few minutes.
Fantastic. So, Liam, let's start with your childhood. Tell us a little bit about growing up. What was it like?
Growing up, I'm an only child. I have two British parents. We moved over to New Zealand when I was around 10 years old. And basically, as soon as we arrived, my dad just had to work wherever he could to, make sure that we were fed and looked after. And he started to be a baker down at Muffin Break, which was a cafe that did muffins and coffee. And he would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go down to Queen Street and make over 400 muffins in his shift before he left at around midday. So that was kind of the start of, Muffin Break being a big part of my life. Because after that, he worked himself up. He became a franchisee, and him and my mum opened up a Muffin Break in a place called Whangaparoa. So that also dictated where we moved around in New Zealand. So basically moved from South Auckland out to the peninsula. And that's where I did most of my growing up. My first job was literally being a dishwasher. Don't know if it was entirely legal working in there when I was 10 or 11, but I was paid. Did a few hours over the busy period, but that was a great sort of start in setting up how I viewed work and, how I sort of started in that sort of hospitality side of things.
Amazing. Wow. So you also have a little bit of that immigrant understanding moving into New Zealand and setting up your life from scratch. That's amazing. So tell us a little bit more about your early education, Liam. Where did you study? You said you moved around a few places. So what was it like shifting schools maybe at a young age? What was that experience?
I feel like I was quite adaptable in terms of shifting around. Even when we were moving around in New Zealand, I never felt any sort of issues with, packing up and going to the next place or making new people or meeting new people. So when we were shifting around, and also with schooling, it never seemed to be an issue. My schooling went from primary school to intermediate and then to a private school in Albany. But apart from that, it sort of didn't dictate what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. Sort of what I wanted to do wasn't sort of related to what I learned at school.
Great. And what were any early challenges that you faced during this time of your growing up?
I would just say the typical strains of being a teenager, nothing out there, nothing too crazy or anything like that. I have to say that I've lived a very, happy life in terms of, I had two loving parents. Never felt like I was overlooked or anything like that. And, yeah, I can't say that there was like challenges and anything like that. It's just been, you know, challenges work related in terms of, talking about things later on where
Yeah.
certain trials have come depending on the job and whatnot.
So before we talk a little bit more about work, I want to just touch on how do you feel your growth as a child, as a youngster, has reflected on you as a personality when you are into recruitment? Any insights you could take from those days, early days from your?
Uh, well, I guess as you've touched upon earlier, I do have that immigrant mindset in terms of this isn't my place of birth, and my place of birth, I don't think I would ever go back to. I was born in Germany, but that was only because my parents worked for a company there. So we lived there for 9 years. I don't know much German. I was raised to be in around English people. So with that sort of mindset coming into New Zealand, I never felt like an outsider, but of course my accent would always give away that fact that I wasn't born and raised here. Even though, I've spent over 20 plus years here, I still have the accent and whatnot. But, I identify with New Zealanders. I love their sense of humor. I love their work ethic. Uh, and yeah, that's kind of the things that I like to push out there for people that are looking at New Zealand as a place to come and work.
Great. Samina, you're on mute. I think you're.
Sorry, everyone. So saying, that's really nice to hear about your background. I think a lot of people can sort of relate to it. I know I can, being from a similar situation, but we'd love to get into hearing about your career journey. I know that, you've mentioned Muffin Break and that your dad was their first job, but yeah, from managing cafes and then obviously transitioning into your role now with Sky City, could you give us a little bit of, background or what inspired your career changes and moves through the hospitality industry?
Yeah, I think I fall into the same path as a lot of other people in hospitality. They don't always plan for this to be their career. It's sort of, most of us sort of plan it as a stepping stone just to get some money in, do something else a little bit later. But yeah, I've been with hospitality from an early age. I went from working at my parents' cafe, which gave me a great CV when I was a 15 or 16-year-old going out to actually look for other work. So I then went to work at a cinema. I love movies. That's actually what I did study when I went to after school. I did that as a tertiary education. So I did that for a few years at the cinema, did my education, and then I ended up at Sky Television for a little while. So that was monitoring their channels and making sure adverts played on time. Horrible shift work, nothing to do with anything related to what I studied.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did my OE, which is an overseas experience in New Zealand, where it's usually a way where, the kids go overseas, get away from the parents, pretty much look after themselves. I went to Canada and, I went there with no job or no sort of prospects of a job. And as soon as I got there, I was working at the hostel, cleaning the rooms, which again
Wow.
was not luxurious at all. But from there, I got to travel all around Canada. I did a time on the ski mountain because I love snowboarding. So that was great for the 6 or 7 months. And then, really, I would say my proper hospitality career started when I came back from Canada. So I was roughly 25 years old. I came back and an opportunity came up where I could be running a little donut store in Albany Mall,
Mm-hmm.
which had all of 4 or 5 staff members. So I put my hand up for that. I would say I was grossly underprepared, and I sort of worked my way through the interview and, got the job. And I was managing people my age, if not slightly younger. So, from the get-go, I was sort of learning my trade by doing. So from there, I went into managing a cafe and managing multiple cafes for a company until there was an opportunity to become a franchisee of my own place. So I did that, and I did that for 2 years. And yeah, this was all sort of leading towards working for the company in a higher position. So I was sort of working my way up and became an area manager for Muffin Break, or it was called Food Co. And then I was in charge of like 12 different stores up and down the North Island. So, the stores ranged from Muffin Breaks and Jamaica Blues, but it was predominantly cafes that we franchised out to people. And my role was basically to keep them following the rules, following the recipes, following our procedures, and also like helping them to make this work for them, make money off of running a restaurant and to go home happy. So, yeah, it was during that time that I sort of realized that I could make a career out of hospitality. And the stuff that I learned, I would say, is predominantly stuff that I learned while doing the job, which I feel quite happy with. Like, I don't have a formal education in this space, but everything I learned, I feel, has been quite a lot of value in terms of just getting in there and doing it.
That's interesting. Salim, a lot of people feel hospitality is a highly stressful, a profession, and that sort of dissuades a lot of them from getting into it. So, do you feel is that statement true? And if so, how do you manage pressure? How does someone in the hospitality industry manage that pressure?
I personally love pressure. Like even when it wasn't a manager role and it was just working with your team to get through a shift. It's just there's kind of like that team bond where it's like, okay, it's getting busy, all hands on deck, everyone just do everything that they need to do to get things out and going. But with the pressures and also the responsibility with hospitality, my favorite saying, and I don't know where I picked it up from, was anyone that works in hospitality is basically a baggage handler. So the way that they explained it was customers may bring in their own baggage. We're not meant to take this baggage home with us. So they bring in the baggage, we handle the baggage, and then we present it back to them, and they're on their way. Because there'll just be some people that come in with a bad attitude or a chip on their shoulder, and you just can't take anything personally. As the best way to get back at them is to smile and give them the best service. So, it just goes along with my sort of humor as well.
Amazing.
Okay,
Is
that's
that what you
interesting. I
look
was going.
for? Sorry, go ahead, Sabina. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that's interesting because it was one of my, being from the hospitality industry, understanding that, and just it is sometimes the challenges that you face. It's all about the team coming together and having that leader on top as well. So I think sort of understanding that and knowing how to manage a team with these kind of challenges or pressures. Can you also give us an example of some of the highs that you've experienced while also managing a team?
Yeah, like as simple as it can be, it can just be down to numbers compared to previous months. Like when I took over as a franchisee for Muffin Break, that store was struggling. Like it was being run poorly. The people that were running it weren't interested. They weren't engaging in their customers, and I felt like it didn't require a lot of effort to get it to a good place. Like I went in there, I just did what I was doing with places that I was running for a company. And within 2 to 3 weeks, word spread that there had been a change in management. The food is good, the service is great. The people are like presenting themselves well, and it was just it's those little things that have been like great to hear. Nowadays, the things that I enjoy most, which has been happening quite a lot lately, is our candidates or our employees that are coming back to me now saying, I've got the extension on my visa. Thank you for all your help. So, these are the ones that have come over, they've done the accredited visa, they had 2 or 3 years, they've now extended it to the 5 years, which gives them a great chance to turn that into a resident visa. So, that's what I enjoy now, is getting people into the roles that they want, and then also helping them so that they can stay and have a family and bring family over. So that's what I enjoy mostly now.
Yeah, that's definitely so rewarding.
I want to just add a quick question, Samina here. Liam, you mentioned about managing people, right? I wanted to ask a little bit more about what is your take on creating a team, and in such a competitive environment, how do you constantly provide motivation to team members in the hospitality sector?
Yeah, like I just always follow the whole lead by example. And another thing that I learned from my dad a long time ago is no matter what the job is, you just always do it to 100% of your ability. Like there's no job below you. So even when I'm managing stores, if dishes need to be done, I'm doing the dishes. And again, it's just sort of with cafes, I always found it was easy. Like I worked with a lot of younger adults and younger students, and the big draw to them to work in a cafe is to be the barista and make the coffee and the latte art. So I would let them do it. It's just I always feel like the best thing for a manager to do is to keep investing in their team. So as long as the team feels like they're constantly growing or they're constantly, being engaged, I just felt like I kept a lot of people a lot longer than say other businesses. Like again, I ran that store for 2 years. Pretty much the people I hired in the first week were the ones I had that whole time. So it's little things like that. I don't quite have like a plan in terms of my leadership. It's just lead by example and sort of treat them how I think I would like to be treated, and just go from there.
Fantastic. Just to add to that, Liam, so what should a potential candidate, right, look for if he has to impress you? If he wants to impress Liam Drury, what is Liam looking for in an ideal candidate?
Right. So in a typical interview, I am always happy when they do their research. Like, we have a lot of roles here at any time. So when people apply for a role and I call them up and, say, what's the reason you're applying for this role in particular? Because we might have many of that same role at different venues. So it's just like, why have you chosen this one in particular? And if the answers range from, it's just a job, or I don't know, it's just, something to do, it doesn't grab my attention. It's just, I don't think it takes a lot just to do that little bit of research, or to, if you're interested in a place, if you can physically go visit the place, that's great. Because we definitely get people from overseas and from down south that want to apply, and that's perfectly fine. But just to do the little bit of research, like, study up about the company, make sure that the values align with your values, and to generally show a passion in the role, or just have a passion in what you do and how you present yourself.
Thanks, Liam.
Thanks. I think that's really interesting information for anybody watching. It is always, why are you doing this? And obviously there are a lot of reasons why you do what you do. And I think managing comes in also, you know, you can exchange the words sometimes manager and mentor at the same time. And I would love to understand your mentors. I think you touched on your dad as well, but have you had any other mentors through your professional career that have sort of influenced the way that you manage a team?
Yeah, like, you know, I would just say that any of my previous managers or bosses, in one way or another, are always teaching me. Like, you know, they're either teaching me the right way of doing things, or, you know, sometimes I've had bad jobs where they've taught me the wrong thing. And I find them both like great lessons in terms of, okay, I don't think that works in a team dynamic. I'm not going to do that. Um, but in terms of mentors, I definitely have a few people that I go to if I have like things that come up. Like, you know, I did spend a lot of time at Food Co. I had a person that I worked very close with who, you know, was probably had a wealth of experience back in England doing the same sort of thing. And yeah, I just always touch base with him in terms of, you know, how he would go about certain things. And he's always been a good way of bouncing ideas off. So, you know, it's just, I like people that are quite to the point, but also have that sense of humor to go along with it. Because if you're not having fun with the job, then you shouldn't be doing it.
That's great. Liam, also wanted to ask you, you've had such a long history in the hospitality industry. Is there any moment or any moment of achievement that you hold very close to your heart that still sort of, you know, brings that twinkle in your eye that, okay, this has happened?
I'm very happy to say that I think it's ongoing. Like, you know, I don't feel like I've hit a plateau with hospitality. Like, you know, if this is my last job all the way through in doing recruitment in hospitality, especially with, you know, food and beverage and back of house, then I would be quite happy with that because there's just, it's for me, it's just bringing in that new talent and, you know, okay, actually, there you go. A good point would be we've just done, well, we've just finished off a 2-year apprenticeship for our chefs. So this was started 2 years ago. It was one of the first things I did here was to recruit 10 or so candidates to be apprentices. And then at the end of 2 years, they would be qualified chefs. So they came with no background whatsoever in kitchens. And, you know, we found 10 people, we interviewed them, we thought they were great. And then just today, they were doing their end of year reviews. So pretty much they had to prepare meals and get it out to the judges. And I am very fortunate that I was asked to come along just for support. My opinion of the food doesn't matter because I would just love anything that they prepared because I am not a connoisseur like some of these chefs. But you know, that just fills me with great pride that you know, we went for 10 people and we pretty much ended the course with those 10 candidates. So again, it's just identifying the diamonds in the rough, I would say, and just being able to be there throughout their whole journey.
Amazing. And any specific moments of achievement that you feel proud about? Anything that in particular that stands out?
Uh, Apart from that, generally not. Like I don't have a lot of individual achievements or anything like that. It's just kind of my work is shown in other ways, I would say. So, you know, I feel like my best representation is the people that I've hired over the years. So, you know, I look to them to do great, and vice versa. They make me look good that I found them in the first place, but really, it's all on them.
That's so beautifully put, Liam. I think so many people, I think a lot of people who have been mentored by you would be so proud of you saying that, and I'm sure they will do well that they constantly bring in that sense of achievement continuously into your life. That's really well beautifully put. I also wanted to ask you, Liam, a little bit more about what is the life of a recruiter. I think there's so many young recruiters who want to get into this industry, who may be facing different challenges, who want to hear from you. What is it like getting on the top there? What is it like in a day-to-day life? What is right from a professional point of view, but also the personal stresses, and how do you overcome that on a day-to-day level?
Yeah, like first and foremost, I guess with this role and probably with any role, is managing your relationships with your people. Like, my personal responsibility is to my hiring managers. So the people that are requesting the roles and I'm filling the roles for them or getting the right people to go to them for interviews and whatnot. So I think it's mainly, learning to relate to people. Doesn't mean you have to be the life of a party. Like I, by no means, am an extroverted person. But again, just with what I've been saying throughout this, my key thing is humor. And if I can find what makes somebody laugh or, what's their type of humor, then from then on, we're good as gold. So yeah, that's kind of my thing with that. Like, and then with the recruitment side, it is getting the results, like, and then trying to do it in a timely fashion. So yeah, there are struggles. We've had cases where people are pulled out when we're quite far along, and then we have to go back to scratch, and that can waste a few weeks. But again, it's just having that line of communication open and just always keeping both the candidate and both the hiring manager up to date.
Excellent.
That's interesting. I think when people look at recruitment, a lot of the back end and obviously the work that you do in connecting, like you said, the people to the roles, to the culture of the workplace they might be coming into and keeping that communication going. Any tips or insights that you would give to maybe young people in New Zealand or even offshore that are looking at getting into hospitality? Maybe they have studied something within the hospitality range, or maybe it's something that they want to look at. They're in a first job, maybe like you in a cafe. But what would you say are good next steps for somebody that really wants to dive into a role in hospitality?
Yeah, like there's quite a few different ways of going about it. Like if they're still currently at school, there's quite a few programs where they do work experience over the holiday period. Like, we work with certain schools in terms of getting 3 or 4 people to come over in the school holidays and work in the kitchens. Again, they might not want to be chefs at the end of it. And most of them actually just want to get some work experience so that, when they do go out looking for a job, it's a CV that actually has something on there rather than just their hobbies and whatnot. So I think it is just really getting out there and, like, at the end of the day, work experience is going to be worth a lot more than any tertiary education in most roles. Like, I'm not looking so much about the types of roles. I do look for how long people stay in roles. That's not to say stay in a role that you don't like for years upon years. It's just everything you put onto that little piece of paper tells me a lot. So it's just sort of navigating through those and putting your best foot forward. Like, I think all the CV is meant to do is to get you into the room with a person face to face. So if you can get to that interview stage, then you yourself should be set. Your personality, everything, your passion, that should all come through during the face-to-face. That CV, that piece of paper, that's just your ticket in. So sometimes less is more.
I think that's really good advice.
I just have a follow-up question, Liam. For young recruiters, right? Are there any recruitment tools or techniques that you rely on to get your work done more efficiently?
I wish there was. So, it just with our roles, sometimes we get, hundreds upon hundreds of applications. We work with a program where we can do some screening and some filtering. So, we ask a few questions, availability, what they're expecting, wages, and that can cut through quite a bit. Like, with these roles, we find that a lot of people, and again, it comes back to doing the research. A lot of people tend not to read what they're applying for. So sometimes they'll read a title of what the role is, make an assumption, apply for it, and then when you go to look at their CV or their application, it's not aligning with what they've applied for. So yeah, like there's no particular tools. It's sort of finding what works best for you. Like, you know, I tend to do a lot of my admin stuff on the Monday, and then I tend to do a lot of my phone screens from Tuesday onwards. So, the typical week for me is emails from over the weekend, uh, do the phone screens, uh, book them for interviews if I feel like they are appropriate, and then follow up the managers for feedback. So, we do try to get our process down as quickly as possible because I think the standard when I started in Sky City was roughly 4 to 5 weeks to, fill a role. And with the team that we have now, we're doing it in like 2 to 3 weeks, if that. So, we're moving at a lot faster click. And that's also related to the environment out there as well. We know we have to be agile in order to get the best people.
Okay, fantastic. Liam, I want to jump into a few questions I've got on LinkedIn from some of our followers. I have a question here from a friend, Susan from Queenstown. She's like, Liam, what advice would you give to someone transitioning from operational hospitality role to a recruitment-focused position?
Oh, okay. Yeah, if she has the chance, I would always recommend doing some job shadowing. Like, if she's working in that sort of type of work already, if she has access to perhaps, shadowing a recruiter uh, within her business or maybe just adjacent to it, I would fully recommend that just to even see if she wants the job. Like, it is quite a different beast. I do miss the face to face of customers. I do get that by going to expos now as a recruiter, and having turn on the charm and talking with people face to face and making Sky City the place to be. But yeah, I would just say try to again do the research or talk with people that are already within the business, and yeah, just try to like find out as much as you can about it. Like, you're more than welcome to reach out to me in any way in terms of any questions like that. And yeah,
Amazing.
I'm sure
Thanks.
my details will be at the end of this.
I have one more question before I think we're running a little short on time, but just quickly bring in one more question from Olga. She's like, I run a recruitment agency in Dubai. Liam, how do you think the recruitment landscape in hospitality has changed post-COVID? And what trends do you see shaping in future?
Right. Uh, so when I came on board Sky City, that was during COVID. So I was pretty much working off site and didn't see the office until 6 months into my tenure here. But over that time, I saw a big shift in terms of, and this is again probably just New Zealand, but it might be a worldwide thing. But I saw a lot of people when I first began being very challenging on what their expectations were. It was very much employee centric market in terms of instead of the employer dictating what's on offer, it was a lot of employees saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. Since then, that's now changed to being a little bit more back to normal, where there's now less jobs and more candidates, and to the extent that there's more qualified candidates for less roles. So, we do see a lot of we see people reply to us a lot faster, but also we see people go for other jobs a lot quicker as well. Like, the environment now is to check that your recruitment techniques or your procedures aren't sluggish. So, if you feel like there's a bit where you could speed it up, if you guys do references or things like that, it's trying to mitigate that time between when they meet you and when they're waiting on an answer. You want that time to be as short as possible. You have your interview, you think they're great, we're just waiting on references. As soon as you get those references in, are you getting an offer out to them straight away? So I think it's just looking at the procedures and making sure that you're as agile and as fast as you need to be to ensure that you get the best candidates.
Thanks, Liam.
Thanks, Liam. I think this webinar has been really informative. Any sort of end remarks or notes or anything just before we wind up of, I guess, being with such a sort of iconic New Zealand brand like SkyCity, if somebody is looking to move in, to a new role, or what's the best way for them to go about maybe contacting you or the team at SkyCity sort of moving forward?
Yeah, so we have all of our roles up at a website called skycitycareers.com. We also have the email address, which is careers@skycity.co.nz if you want to email directly. But if you go down that approach, you'll probably just be met with, if you like a role, please apply on SkyCity Careers. So I guess the best way to do it is, again, we're entering our quieter period now in terms of we're not expecting lots of people to be available for interviews for the coming weeks. So we sort of wind it down a little bit. But come January, that's New Zealand summer, and that's when the cruise ships are coming in. We'll be opening up a lot more roles. So again, I guess just take the time to revise your CV. If you have lots of work experience, maybe condensing it, just do what's more relevant for the role that you're applying for. So if that means you have different CVs for different roles, perfectly fine. Because, at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. It's like, what's the relation between what you're applying for and what's on your CV?
Fantastic. Thank you, Liam.
Awesome advice.
Really informative, and thanks for sharing your journey with us today. It was, I think, really informative. I got to learn so much. I think a lot of people who are watching this would absolutely love it. Young recruiters who are starting on this journey, I think there's so much for all of them to take. I thank you all for watching checking into this LinkedIn Live as well. And again, I want to thank you, Liam. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your valuable resource of knowledge with us. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for the invite. It is, as I said, it's an honor to have been invited for this. So no, thank you very much for that.
Take care. Thank you so much. Thanks to you all for joining in.